Good morning and greetings, Poe fans. We are here with Butch Patrick, who is also known as Eddie Munster, and we would like to talk with him today. And also, we're going to be promoting an event that both of the 6 Degrees of Edgar Allan Poe and Butch Patrick will be at in May. So, Mr. Patrick, welcome.
Please call me Butch. But
All
thank
right,
you.
I keep doing that and calling you Mr. Patrick, but yes, welcome, Butch. And so, will you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I acted in Hollywood as a child. I started in 1960. Did several series, including the Munsters. The Munsters is probably the most famous of the most popular or the most well known. But I also did a year of the Real McCoys prior to the Munsters, and I did the first ever 2 or 3 episodes of General Hospital when it first came on the air back in, I think it was 1962 or three.
Okay.
I also did 3 seasons of My Three Sons as a reoccurring regular, Ernie's best friend. I did 9 episodes of that. And then I did Saturday morning, Sid and Marty Krofft's third series called Lidsville with Charles Nelson Riley and Billy Hayes back in the summer of 71. So I had a window of about 15 years in the business from 60 to 75.
Okay.
Great time to be a kid, great time to be in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much, I've morphed that into a career of sorts by helping promoters and people who put on conventions and this and that. And I also enjoy cars and drag racing and things of that nature. So I actually have a Munster coach and a Dragula, and I'm Eddie Chopper, and I do a lot of automotive events as well. So I found a nice niche for myself.
Oh, that is very cool. And I was going to say, speaking of the cars at the event, and we'll go ahead and kind of talk about it a little bit. It's called Halfway to Halloween. It's going to be in Manchester, Tennessee, at the Coffee County Fairgrounds. And so, which car are you planning on bringing?
I'm bringing the Dragula and my Chopper. The
Okay.
Munster coach, my Munster coach, and I actually had 2 cars I bought about 8 years ago, but they were built by a gentleman who was a Chevy guy. And the original Barris cars were Ford cars. So what I did is I got rid of those, and I've now got the really accurate, really nice Dragula, and then the coach will follow up later this year.
Oh, very cool. Okay. That'll be exciting to see.
Oh, yeah, and here.
Yes. I know my husband's excited about seeing the cars as well.
Good.
Me too. I'm a car person. I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. I hear a silent partner.
Exactly. I'm like that cuckoo clock on the Munsters. I'm coming out and I'm saying it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm a car person. Yes. But yeah, I usually mark my TV series by either the cars that I like.
She does.
By a particular character I like. So it's really unusual. I think I'm odd that way. But
You are odd that way, but we love you, so.
No. Yeah, they keep me around whether I'm silent or not. That's all I gotta say.
Yes. Well, all right. Well, so kind of, also talking about your work on the Munsters, do you have a favorite episode?
Well, I have several, but
Okay.
there were a lot of really good episodes, and it's kind of interesting. One of the things that I was very lucky was a lot of times when you're an only kid on a series, a lot of times you'll be a secondary character. You'll sort of, it's built around adults. And a lot of the time that happens because the kid has to go to school 3 hours a day. And there simply isn't a lot of time to put him in front of the camera that those 3 hours are taken. And that's when you add up the makeup for an hour and then 3 hours of school and then an hour for lunch, an hour for recreation. That's 5 hours out of an 8-hour day.
Right.
But luckily for me, Fred Gwynn and I built up a rapport that transferred well onto camera. Him being a very giant, childlike character, and me being a very small, adult-like 10-year-old, although I was 11 or 12, 8 or 9. The writers wrote some very funny scripts that are some of my favorites. And one of those is Eddie's Nickname, where I grew a beard.
I remember that one.
and one of the reasons I really enjoy that is we had such an array of great guest stars, but that particular episode when we went to see Dr. Dudley, Paul Lind, it was a very scene of me and Paul and Herman in the doctor's office trying to explain what I must look like under this paper bag on my head. A 9-year-old kid with a full beard. It's a very funny episode.
Yes.
But with the cars, the Hot Rod Herman episode where I volunteer Herman again, and he never wants to disappoint me. So that introduces the Dragula, which I'll be bringing. So that is also, we went to the drag strip, which I loved, and it was so that was in itself an interesting episode. And then the third one that I usually use, there's so many, but the third one I use is Zombo, which was me being enamored by a television host that I thought was a real guy, winning a contest, going to the studio, and being very disenchanted that the guy was an actor and wasn't real, and and then I proceeded to expose him to the world for the fraud that he was, with Herman being very jealous of him. But I will throw in one more. Comeback Little Googie, where Bill Mooney, the reason I like this one so much, Bill was supposed to be Eddie Munster. He was their first choice.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
It didn't fit into his plans. And then because of that, I was living in Illinois, and my agent got wind of that and had me flown in for the screen test, which I wound up doing and getting the part with Yvonne DiCarlo. But it was nice to have somebody visit for a week, to be in the schoolroom and have a pal, because most of the time I was there by myself, at least no other kids.
Okay.
And the fact that it was a funny episode with me and Bill getting into mischief.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Bill, this is one things that I was reading, that he actually was in the pilot that never aired. Is that true? Because it said
that
filmed in color.
No, he was not in it. They asked him to do it. He basically reclused himself from it. He didn't do it. And then Happy Dermot did the pilot.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
That's why I wanted to reinsert some facts on some of the stuff, because when you're going through all the information and seeing all the wonderful information floating around the web, it's hard to find out that whether some is true, but you're supposed to kind of do it.
Yeah, and also there was another actress named Joan Marshall who did the pilot with Happy Dermot, and the wife's name at the time wasn't Lily. It was they had her as Phoebe Munster, and they changed the name to Lily Munster and brought in Yvonne DiCarlo and myself. And but I do certainly understand about there's so much information floating around that we'll probably get to it. That no, I'm not married.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Once it's out there, it's almost impossible to remove. Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
Yes,
yeah,
very much so. Well, that leads us into, because most of our Poe fans know that we are obsessed with Poe, more than me. Did you have any kind of introduction to the works of Edgar Allan Poe or Edgar Allan Poe before you got into any of these, or did it make a difference when you were on the episodes where there was a lot of Poe-like instances, like the cuckoo clock and things like that? Did you ever notice things like that?
I had read even though I was young, The Pit and the Pendulum, I believe that was a Poe, right? Poe book.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Right, and I saw the movie, and then I actually, after the Munsters, I worked with Vincent Price, and he narrated a lot of stuff.
he did. Yes.
So that was about as close as I got to it. Although The Raven and the movie, Peter Lorre,
Yes,
some is really cool old stuff. But I mean, the Edgar Allan Poe overtone was always there. But no, I wasn't really a fan. I guess. I mean, I was a fan, but I wasn't I really wasn't that knowledgeable about his body of work. I only knew a few of them, but what I saw, I liked.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you go on like after? Because like I kind of wrote down I think I had told you that before I even knew about the event, before we signed up to be a vendor, that I was actually rewatching all the Munster, the 2 years, and I was like capturing all of the moments where Poe was mentioned, and there were 4 episodes. Let's see, Grandpa Leaves Home was one where Herman, kind of early in the episode, he's sitting there reading Murders in the Rue Morgue, and they showed like the book, and which was kind of cool. And then in season 1, episode 31, Love Comes to Mockingbird Heights, where Grandpa and Lily are playing matchmaker to Marilyn, and the guy is talking to his friend saying, their house is right out of Edgar Allan Poe, and a lot of those references come up. And then let's see, Herman's Happy Valley in the end of season 1, and then episode 18 of season 2, Heat Big Herman. And there's, I can't remember if that's the episode or the Herman's Happy Valley. Herman is holding you and the house is falling down. Grandpa is like hanging on the rafter, and the raven comes out of the clock and says, I thought, because Herman's going on and on being real sentimental and, gushy. And the raven comes out and he says, I thought Edgar Allan Poe was a crack up, and so it was really kind of cute and funny. But did you like go on like after that and read any more Poe works or anything like that?
No, I probably should have, but no, I honestly didn't know.
Yeah, you were probably more interested or more inundated into what was going on in like Hollywood or that type of
more contemporary
at the time.
Yeah, more of a contemporary nature. I think most people, that find and get into literary stuff usually do it once they're an adult or at least college level. They start when you're a kid, you're pretty much your priorities and your interests are lying mostly in an immediate surrounding of what you're doing. And I was working a lot,
Absolutely.
And then we had the Beatles.
Oh, yes, very true.
Beatles
and the Monkeys, which you were on an episode.
Yeah. The Standells, you mean?
Well, yes, they were on one of the episodes, but weren't you on one of the episodes of the Monkeys TV show?
Yeah.
Yes.
I like to think it was the best episode because it was their Christmas episode.
Okay.
And it had not only was I on it, which I was very happy to be on it, but I was on it for the whole 3 days, and the whole episode was about me and the Monkeys and them trying to teach me the meaning of Christmas. So it wasn't just one of those walk-ons and walk-offs. It was actually a show I was like the main character guest star that spent a lot of screen time with the Monkeys themselves.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really neat.
That was another one of my favorite shows too.
Everybody loved the Monkeys.
Yes.
Oh yes.
It's kind of like, how could you not love them? Yes.
Well, and it was very interesting because if you think about it, weren't they like using the Monkeys as kind of like a parody of the Beatles at the time and those kinds of things? Because if you think about it, I mean, it was 4 guys, Beatles. Davey almost had the exact same haircut as the Beatles at the time, the bowl. So when you got on the field of that set, did you get that kind of vibe that it was?
Well, I never, wasn't on the set of the Beatles, but I Hard Day's Night was one of my, favorite movies, and it showed a style of the wacky antics, anything can happen, spontaneity situation. And the one thing that I really got out of the show, even though I wasn't there at the end of it when they broke down the fourth wall and brought everybody from behind the cameras to introduce them to the world about, this is so-and-so, and these are Monkey Girls, and this is this, that really pretty much captured the energy level that they had. They had a very fun set. It was a very fun shoot, and it was a lot of nice people. And you got to remember, at the time, they were as big as the Beatles, if not bigger, maybe. They were like right in their second year, and the show was a hit. The music was a hit. Everybody loved them. It was very, that time in the 60s where, mod clothes and haircuts and music, it was just a wild time. And to be part of that as for a 14-year-old kid, it was pretty much a dream come true for me. I very, very rarely really wanted to get a part. I could pretty much take it or leave it, but that one I really wanted.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I've seen some pictures of you with is it Mickey Dolan? Is that the one?
It depends on, I don't see the picture, but yeah, there's one of me and Mickey, and then there's one of I have a couple solo ones of me and Mickey, and then there's a lot of them with me and the group, and I think there's 1 or 2 of me and Peter.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was with Mickey. So yeah, because Mickey and Peter were one of my favorites, even though I love Davey too. But I just love like you said, the vibe of the sets, the vibe of the time, because I still listen to the Monkeys even today as much as I listen to the Beatles. Well, actually, in some instances.
Yeah. No,
But
it was great. It was a wonderful time to be. It was a wonderful time to be in the business and be. The music was breaking and great TV was happening, and
Hmm.
there was wonderful shows that were non-reality based. You had talking horses and Martians and witches and genies and all kinds of great stuff happening.
oh yes.
Comedy was king, and 3 channels is all you needed because you came home.
Yes.
You fought over the TV guide of who was going to get to watch what. Black and white was a great genre. It was switching over to color, but wouldn't trade my window of opportunity. And being born in '53, the year the Corvette was born, I've just had I've been very blessed on many, many levels. And then a lot of people don't know that during that period, my mom married a baseball player who was a Yankee who came to California with the LA Angels. And then for 5 years while they were married, I got to, when I wasn't at the studio, I was at the ballpark. And
Hmm.
then right about the time they got divorced, I got old enough to start going to the drag strip. So I was always, even though I was an actor, I always had really cool, fun stuff to do, whether it be Major League Baseball players in stadiums or drag strips and the likes of all the classic drag racing people.
Oh,
That's
did you ever, and this is me and my car thing coming out. Did you ever get to meet Shirley Muldowney?
Yeah, sure. Shirley, cha-cha. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, she's one of my. I love that movie they made. It's I don't even remember.
Heart like a wheel.
Exactly, Heart Like a Wheel.
hmm
Yeah.
It was. She was always one of my inspirations.
Yeah, Bonnie Bedelia was good in that with Bo Bridges.
Mhm.
It's funny. Back in the day, the guy that I was going to the drag strips with, his name was Jack Crispin. He pretty much won Top Fuel in '61, but he was very innovative. He was kind of the funny car. He was one of the first guys to put a fiberglass body on a car and put a motor in it and smoke the tires the whole way of the track. And that was part of the fun of being that age, was the mini bikes and the dirt bikes and the drag racing and the muscle cars, and really nice window of time to be alive especially as a teenager.
hmm
um, and I'm getting your license in '69, and give you 1969 was an incredible year. First of all, I got my first girlfriend, and I got my license, and we landed on the moon, and then I got a movie. It took me to Brazil for 3 months, and
Ooh.
it was
Wow.
My girlfriend lived in top of Laurel Canyon, and Charlie Manson was running around. It was like, oh my gosh, what a crazy time.
Yeah. I truly believe that, that time frame is one of the best generations to have lived. I wish I could have been a part of that. Jeannie and I are both about the same age. She's a little bit younger than me. She reminds me of that. And jokingly, but yeah, but my parents grew up in the 50s, and so my older brother was born in 57, and the other two of my brothers were about your age, and they would tell me things when I was older. But just my parents really had me watching all of the old school things, and so I still love the fashion, the music from the 50s, the 60s, even really back to the 40s. And it's just, to me, it's one of the great generations, and I you just can't beat it, really.
No, I feel bad for kids today. I really do. I don't, try to be
Yeah.
heavy-handed about it, because unless you were there, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a different world. Stingray bikes and your chat rooms was wherever all the bikes were on the lawn of where everybody was at. You knew where to find your friends, because you'd spot them all in the pool at somebody's house, or
Yeah.
riding somewhere. But it was fun. It was a great time. I mean, I did a movie for Chuck Jones in 1967 and 1968 called The Phantom Toll Booth, which was the Norman Juster's book
hmm
that Chuck did his only feature film, and I was lucky enough to play Milo in it. But we shot it in San Francisco, and
Right.
this was in 1967, '68, when Haight-Ashbury and the Grateful Dead and the Summer of Love and Jimi Hendrix
hmm
and the Monterey Pop Festival's happening, and it was just a whirlwind. It was like, what more can be going on around here? And then I
That
got to
is
work
so cool.
2 years. I got to work with the voiceover, people, everybody that I knew who was talking behind the cartoons that I loved. You're there with Mel Blanc and June Foray and Dawes Butler and Hans Conried, and like seeing them. You're in a booth with them one on one in real face. It was a real treat, because those were like legendary people.
Absolutely. Well, and like Jeannie had read that Mel Blanc did the voice of the Raven on the Munsters. And so did you get to work with him in that
No,
regard?
that doesn't work out that way. They do that in a separate spot, in a separate building. It's called looping. And once in a while I would drop into looping at the end of the week because we had shot some stuff outside and there was noise or wind or whatever you had to do. You had to overdub it. But no, that was simply him going in and knocking that out. And then they also had Bob Hastings from McHale's Navy. I guess when Mel wasn't available, Bob Hastings did it as well.
Okay. Oh, neat. Okay. That is really, really neat.
Yeah, I also read that you did episodes of Adam 12 also. Were you ever in Adam 12?
Adam 12?
Yes.
Yeah, I did 2 of them.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
one of Jeannie's favorites.
I did a lot of work in a reasonable short period of time. Yeah, see, I was never an actor. I was just a kid that kind of stumbled into it accidentally, but it came easy to me, and I could. The memorization factor was easy, and I wasn't intimidated by being around adults. So the fact that I looked 2 years younger than I was, but I acted like 4 years older than I was, it worked out well to be mentally older and physically younger because it just made it easier to do. Kids are like, the thing about being a kid, the more reliable you are and the less liability, the more you work, because it's, it is a business and it's cost. But I had a regular life going on. I was going to public school and I was doing regular kid things. And so a lot of times I would not even go on an interview that was offered to me because I was in the middle of a football game or something. I had something to do. I was going to meet the guys and go ride mini bikes. My mom used to get frustrated with me, but she never forced me to go on an interview. She would try to entice me, but if I didn't want to go, I didn't want to go. So sometimes I wonder, I look back, I go, well, if I really wanted to be an actor, I probably would still be physically going out. But I just got tired of the audition process because I thought, how long do you have to do this before they sort of start maybe circumventing the normal process where there's an interview and a callback and a callback. When do you start getting a script mailed to you and at least have some consideration about, we would like you, would you be available to do this? I mean, that may have been asking a lot, but I still thought that I'm not going to continue this audition process forever.
Yeah.
And then I turned 18 and 19 and the Vietnam War was going on. I had a number 41 in the last year of the draft. I thought I was going to go get killed in Vietnam. I got my money out of the bank early. I petitioned the courts. At the time I turned 18, the law was 21. But when I turned 19, they reversed the law to 18. So I went up and got my money out of the bank. And then when I went up to the induction center for my medical examination, they found that I had a bad knee from the skiing accident. So I was classified as H. So all that happened all within about a 2-year period. And I didn't wind up going to Vietnam, but at the same time, I'd already bought the cars and all the stuff and moved to the beach. And you got to remember, everybody's running around, doing things they probably shouldn't have been doing because bad behavior was accepted back then.
Yeah.
The counterculture was in full swing.
Yes, absolutely.
Woodstock. I mean, all I wanted to do was, I want to be like Woodstock. And I don't mean Charlie Brown's Woodstock.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear that you actually had a childhood and opportunities, because you hear so many, well, especially now, coming out about a lot of the child actors who were affected in different ways, and some of them or many of them have lost their lives either to drug addiction, suicide, or anything like that. Of the
that is true, but I would bet, and I've never really done this, but I would bet 2 things. Number one, it gets publicized when it's somebody from a television show, and it's really more of a plague upon the population across the board. You just really never hear about everybody else because they're not famous.
Right.
That's true.
And I always tell people, I would have been getting into trouble. My lifestyle would have led me. I probably would have figured out a way to make pretty good money. I'm pretty smart, but it wasn't the industry that did anything to send me down that path. Maybe a little bit because people wanted to befriend you and they were a little more wanting to, be your buddy. But I had the gene, and I've been sober almost 13 years now. I had the gene when I was a kid that I would have been drinking beer and doing everything. The industry didn't send me down that path.
Yeah.
But because the industry gets a bad rap for that a lot of times because it gets publicized that way.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of doctors and lawyers and everything else in between that have the same issues.
Yeah, us being both of us, we taught middle school to high school, and we've seen the influences, but a lot of it, like you said, has to do with some of the crowd that you're around and some of the people, and a lot more is publicized if it is someone that everybody would be able to know rather than that random person you see in the newspaper. So,
well, what I did was kind of weird. I had a sort of a role reversal. What I did is I wanted to be accepted as a regular kid. And the way I did that was when I turned 16 and got my driver's license, I would hang out at the local gas station with the other guys working on their cars. And I would be the one to get mom to buy me a case of beer. So I'd show up with the beer. And I threw great parties, and I wanted to overcompensate the other way, but to be accepted. And the way I got accepted was to be the guy that, supplied the party.
exactly.
And had a cool car and, and wanted to be a regular guy. So life, it's a very complex situation for everybody, and even today it's probably even more complex because you have a lot less social interaction and people are getting a little weird.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks to social media. Yes,
their best friend and their portal on the world is like a little
cell phone
6-inch screen.
Yeah, well, that's like why we like to tie in how one of the reasons I was kind of moseying into that generation of what you had to grow up with is we talk about as Edgar Allan Poe. His literary works really didn't become big or popular until after his death, but it was a whole weird thing that he had a life that he wanted to be a writer. That was his focus. That was what he did. But he had so many life instances that knocked him down, knocked him out. And it's really kind of one of the points that I like to draw in, especially when I used to teach in the classroom to the kids, is trying to make that connection that it doesn't matter what generation, like you were in the 60s, 70s generation of Hollywood. But like you said, there was a lot more influences other than just Hollywood that caused someone to make different choices in their, generation, and especially young kids who are impressionable. They choose either right or wrong. So,
well, yeah, it's funny. One of the funniest quotes was when I went down to Brazil for 3 months. I had driven my friend to his interview because he was 15. I was driving, and when he came out of the interview, the producer spotted me and he says, "Do you have a minute?" And I said, "Yeah." I drove him, and he goes, "Come in here." And what happened was I went in and read for the part that my friend read for the part, but I got the job. And 3 days later, I'm in Brazil. I got a passport. I went down there with no teacher and no parent. All I had to do was show up for work in the lobby of the hotel and do my job, which I did. But when I was off work, there was Pan American schools across the street with all the kids and all the seniors and this and that. And they knew where everything was to get into mischief in Brazil. And within a month, after work, I've got a money exchange going between American dollars from the American ships because the Navy base was there. I'm getting cigarettes off the ship hidden under M&M. I'm selling cigarettes on the black market. I'm doing a currency exchange in the bar. And I found a taxi cab driver who sold me weed. So now I'm selling weed, and this is all happening. I'm a 16-year-old kid. So my sister goes at my meeting when I got my first year chip. She goes, "He left as Richie Cunningham and he came back as John Lennon."
That's hilarious.
But that was the summer that I kind of took a turn at Albuquerque and never looked back. But it was, it was the 60s. It was the end of the 60s. It was just, things were just different.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I know, like when I first started teaching back in 2004, even the students are very different even now, just almost 20 years later. I know Jeannie can attest to that too. And just, I used to kind of keep up with some of the, different lingo that they would use, and I don't do it as much now. And so when they'll say certain things, I'm like, what? And they're like, you don't know what that means? I'm like, no, but I don't want to.
It's like initials on texting, like it's the high tech has got advantages. I love my Google Maps, believe it, that kind of stuff. I love it's just I'm going to be 70 in a few months, and I really don't want to be around in 20 years. It's like, I'm good. I've done it. I've seen what I want to see. It's really unfortunately, I hope somebody steps in. I hope they fix it. I hope it all goes away. But somehow, it's just not. I'm glad I without saying any more, I'm really happy with 53 to however much longer I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's amazing.
Kind of sad.
Yeah. So, but you're going to be at the Halfway to Halloween in Manchester, but I also read, aren't you going to be at like some kind of convention in Nashville, like right after it, or?
If you go, I have a schedule on Munsters.com. I do a lot of personal appearances. Number one, because I enjoy meeting people. I like it. I like driving. I have a love affair with the road. My grandmother, when I was a very young child, she was an antiquer and drove all over the country in a pink 59 Cadillac, and I was her co-pilot. So the neat news was, while she was doing her antiquing, in between, she took me to go see everything there was to see as far as national parks and meteor craters and painted deserts and caverns. So that's why I like driving around so much. I just feel very comfortable driving the roads, and so I turned that into a somewhat of a career of sorts. But yeah, I do a lot of personal appearances. I'll be leaving. I got my truck and trailer right out with my dragon and looking at her as we speak. I'm leaving this weekend for Savannah. I do a lot of ghost stuff because my grandma's house was haunted. I purchased it a few years ago to save it from the wrecking ball, put a roof on it, made it livable, and sold it to someone else because I honestly couldn't live in a town of 5,000 people that was 2.5 hours from a major airport. As much as I love catching up with my old friends from 50 years ago, 55 years ago, it was a little too slow pace for me. But I did save the house in grandma's memory, which I'm very glad that I did. But that's
amazing.
My sister informed me, the house is haunted. I go, no, I wasn't aware of that. So now I do a lot of, because I own a haunted house, I get a lot of paranormal people reaching out to me. And Savannah is an extremely haunted town.
Pause just 1 second.
Yeah.
Oh. She took off running. I wonder where she's going. Okay.
I don't know. Her little sign says, I teach, I drink.
Oh yeah, that's all right. That's actually our trivia name when we go play trivia. Our group is I teach, therefore I drink. So, because the majority on our team, we're all teachers. So
I have the utmost respect and for teachers. I loved all my teachers. I remember most of their names. I had it all the way through junior high school. I remember them all through grammar school because there was only one teacher. When you get to junior high school, I remember most of them, but the ones that used to accompany me on the set, that would be the welfare workers for studios and stuff, great people, great. I have the utmost respect and admiration for teachers.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I've taught English. I'm teaching freshman English now, and I've taught history. Jeannie has taught all the 4 subjects.
Yeah, I tried in some areas, but you know how it is.
Oh, you did well.
Science is a whole different ball game when you get into the world.
Yeah, I do a lot of I try to make myself available for like little indie films, but I've spoken at a lot of schools, and it's usually the drama department, but usually if you're speaking at the drama department, you get a few people from other classes sit in, they figure you're coming. So yeah, I always enjoy going back. It's kind of fun to go back and share some experiences with the kids. A lot of them don't have a clue, but their parents love it, their grandparents love it because it's the Munsters.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Some of the generation I don't think know who the Munsters are, which is a really sad thing. Because of social media.
A lot of them do. It depends on the household if they're introduced to it. they're introduced to it. Most of them like it, and then a lot of them find it on their own. They, a couple of years ago, Fall Out Boy had a #1 record. It had the Munster riff in it, and kids didn't know it was the Munster riff until their parents told them about it. And they sent them down the path to go see it. And then you got Rob Zombie, did the movie last year. There's been remakes over the last 40 years, like 4 different times. It's out there, and there's a lot of toys. There's a lot of toys. I do a lot of tattoo conventions around the world because so many Universal Monsters and Munsters have been inked on people. So the Munsters falls into all these various categories that I find to be fun because it's not like you're into one channel. You can go here and go there and go there, and go to cars and collectibles and tattoo and pop culture and you name it, and horror, haunted, paranormal.
Absolutely.
It definitely fits the cult classic, which is why I think Poe is around in a lot of things. Like comic books, and even in today, they're making new, like Netflix is making a Fall of the House of Usher.
It's
series.
Kind of funny. Luckily for me, cult is a good word, but it's actually cult is a little too small. Cult gives the inclination that it's a small, loyal clique of people. This is more iconic pop culture.
That's a great way to say it. Yes.
Yeah, it's gotten a little beyond the cult factor, but it started there, sure, but it was just a really good show. It was well produced. It was family. It was tasteful. It was like good comedy without any 4-letter words type of thing. It was a lot of good times, and it was representative of some good things going on in the country at the time, and that's why it stands up so well, because the production value was good.
Absolutely. And I thought the writing was well done. And you kind of mentioned the Universal Monsters, thinking of all the characters represented and, kind of taking, from, Dracula, the Wolfman, even Creature from the Black Lagoon, wasn't it? I think it was Frankenstein, the monster. And it's like, I love that within those few episodes, the writers did include just those little Poe nuggets. And because they really didn't have to, because the Universal Monsters stand alone by themselves is amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. Living here in Conway, Arkansas. It's a small town feel. It's got 75,000 people, but it's got a small town feel to it. And I've over the years I've been a guest at all kinds of haunted attractions, as you might expect. But a gentleman here has got a really nice piece of property, and he's got a haunted house. And in the summer, he sells fireworks out of this one big building. So as soon as 4th of July is over, he's given me the building, and I'm going to create a Munster. I'm calling it a mausoleum. It's kind of like a mausoleum museum of what it looked like for me going to work when I was like 11 years old. They call it Stage 32, and when you go in, it's going to be the reverse of the Wizard of Oz. Instead of being black and white going into color, it's going to be color on the outside going into black and white.
Cool.
I'll have all my cars on display, and I'll have all my Munster memorabilia, and we'll have a living room, we'll have Grandpa's dungeon, and I'm going to be showing on one wall, big, all the Universal Monster movies from the 30s to establish people. This is where all the Halloween stuff that you're watching and doing today started, which then led to the Munsters, which the Munsters will be on TV over in the living room. And so it's going to be me meeting and greeting with my stuff and letting people know and giving a little education on how influential the Universal studio was, not only from the original Frankenstein to the Munsters to today.
Very cool.
That sounds really cool. I was going to say, Jeannie, we need to make a road trip once that's open.
Conway, Arkansas, here we come.
Yeah,
and you're absolutely right, because we are going to integrate, the Creature and Uncle Lester, the Wolfman, and the Mummy, and the Phantom of the Opera, and a few other things as well, into the actual haunt that he's got. We're taking a couple of the older ones that I'm not using in my stage. We're going to apply them into his existing house and do a spot under the stairs over there, and then a few other things. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and people will get I think they'll get a kick out of it. And it's nice that I found a place to do it. And like I say, he's been in business 13 years. He's happy to have something new on the property, and I'm happy to jump on board with something that I don't have to start from scratch.
Very cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Thank you.
So it's something to look forward to, and
absolutely, yeah, you can make a road trip here.
People.
I think I'm only about 275 miles away from Manchester.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have been to Conway, Arkansas when I was a teenager. When I was in high school, I was on the dance team, and we went to, I think it was University of Arkansas is there, I think, or is it
Universal
Arkansas?
Central Arkansas.
That, yes.
Central.
I couldn't remember which one it was, but yes, we
There's
would
three,
have our,
there's three colleges here too. Yeah.
okay, and we would do our dance camp there and stay in the dorm. And so, yeah, I've been there, but it's been, a long time ago. So
Time to
yeah,
come back.
definitely we'll come back. That sounds so cool.
Yes.
Well, anything else, Butch, that you want to add?
Well, if your viewers want to know how to find me, they should probably get a pen and paper. I'm going to give you an address. You got your pen and paper? Okay, write this down. It's very hard to remember. Munsters.com.
Which we've actually put on our information on our newsletter. It's on our sites and everything. So yeah, hopefully they can find you.
Yeah, it's a joke.
One way or the other.
Everybody can remember Munsters. Everybody should be able to remember Munsters.com.
Oh yes, definitely so.
I'll be bringing a bunch of stuff along. If you have your Munster collectibles, bring them out for signatures. If anybody's listening and doesn't have them, it's a good place to start a collection would be at my table because I got a lot of fun stuff.
Oh, great, great. Were you able to like keep any of the memorabilia from the TV show?
It's funny. I was talking to Bill Mooney about that the other day. He collected everything. He was very organized. I mean, he's got certain people just keep stuff, in a very not as a hoarder, but as an organized stuff. He's one of those. I on the other hand, would give everything away because it brought more joy to other people than I was doing it. It didn't mean much to me. I would bring home my ears to give them away, a Herman headpiece to give them away, scripts, give them away, everything gave them away. The only thing that I got, and I didn't even get it at the end of the show, was the prop man held on to Woof Woof. And when I was out doing an Ironside, probably 7 years after the show ended, number one, Eddie Keys was 85 when the show ended. So first of all, he was alive at 92 and working. And he said, Butch, he goes, don't move. I got something for you. I've been lugging this thing around for 7 years, waiting to see you. And he gave me the Woof Woof doll, of which I then destroyed him accidentally and I have 4 of them, though. I have 4 different versions of Woof Woof from various professional builders that use the original to make the molds and to make the replacement. So yeah, but I do have Woof Woof dolls. Now I've got 2 slot machines. I've got a pinball machine. I've got a bunch of normal collectible stuff. A friend of mine's got one of my suits. He wants to sell it. I don't know whether I'm going to buy it. It's that important to me or not. But yeah, I got a few bunch of things, and I kind of know where to find them if I ever want them.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, I'm going to share on the screen real quick the
flyer.
Yes, the flyer. Give me just a second, and just so our viewers can see this. And so definitely, if you're in the area of Manchester, Tennessee on May 6th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., come to Halfway to Halloween Faire at the Coffee County Fairgrounds, where Butch Patrick will be with Dragula, and 6 Degrees of Edgar Allan Poe will also be a vendor. So please come out that day. And we're excited. We're excited to actually physically meet you that day as well. So we'll come see you and see the cars.
The car and bike.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to both the car and the bike. I'm just saying.
Yes.
But I'm looking forward to seeing you also and getting my signature on Woof Woof. Hopefully, I can get my own Woof Woof doll.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's 22 inches tall, and he basically was JoJo the monkey doll was his body. So you go looking for JoJo. Well, there's Zippy or JoJo, but JoJo the monkey doll is actually the one that he held a banana. They took the banana out of his hand. You can sort of see his curved little hand. Or there's another one called Zippy, but JoJo was the original.
I actually had a Zippy, the monkey, and I still have it actually.
Well, there you go.
I had the JoJo with the banana and everything because that was my favorite. That was my favorite when I was a kid.
Yeah,
you guys are both in good shape if you still have them.
Yeah. Mine. I've got mine. He's packed away. I'll have to get him out.
There you go. All right. Well, thank
All
you,
right.
kids.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Well, yeah, Butch, thank you. It was so good to meet you, and we appreciate it so much, and we look forward to seeing you on May 6th.
All right.
Yes.
See you soon.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye.